Hello and welcome to a look at Kickoff 2 for the Commodore 64, a game that was released by Anco software. Due to the fact that the World Cup is being played at the moment, I decided to do a football-themed game to cover. And this one is an interesting one. This particular title is likely best remembered or known for the Amiga version of the same game, which was by many considered to be one of the better football games for that computer. It's something I don't necessarily agree with, but I will return to that towards the back end of this particular video. Kickoff 2 is a football game, as you have likely gathered by now, and you have various different options in order to play a football. You can play a single game, you can play international friendly, you can play a cup, and you can play a league. And then you can do some practice. On top of that, the game will give you some options where you can set the duration of matches and win conditions and choice of refs and so on. And the different referees in this particular game are very, very different in their attitude towards fouls. Some of them you can tackle the entire opposing team and the ref will not pay attention, and others you just have to look at the ref in the wrong way and he will give you a red card. I assume I don't have to try to explain the concept of football, but one thing I will mention about this particular title, which is also the case for the Amiga version, is that the uniqueness of this particular game is the fact that the approach to the way of playing football was done somewhat differently, because prior to this game's release, most of the football games had the ball being stuck to the player's foot as they were running, and then they could try to pass and shoot at goal and that kind of stuff. But in this particular title, the ball is loose at all times, and you basically have to guide it with the player and try to guide it in the general direction you want to go. Normally, I would do a control section as part of the technical thing, but because it's the controls of this particular title that makes the football unique, I sort of have to cover it now. As I was saying, you guide the ball by having the player running behind it, and then you can try and guide it to the sides by moving accordingly so your player is behind the ball at all times, and then you use the fire button to shoot. But you also use the fire button to pass and to tackle, and if the ball is in the air, you use the fire button to jump up and try to hit the ball in any given direction. The problem with that particular thing is the fact that in order to pass the ball, you have to hold down the fire button before you can pass the ball. But because of the controls being what they are, if the ball is not in connection with the player's foot, then the game will think that you're trying to shoot the ball and not pass the ball. And the timing difference between when you have to hold down the fire button to pass the ball and shoot the ball is so incredibly tight, so it becomes incredibly obnoxious. And of course, if you try to run into the ball having or holding down the fire button because you want to be able to pass it when you pick it up, then you are going to be doing sliding tackles along the way. This is not necessarily a control issue, it's a control design. And it is a design that I personally detested, even on the Amiga version. One of my friends back in the day was quite into football games and got quite good at playing Kickoff 2 on the Amiga. and proved that once you get the hang of the controls, the game can be quite excellent and exciting. But for me personally, I did not want to spend the time necessary to master the controls, and that's why I never could enjoy that particular title. But if you look at the Commodore 64 version, you have a scanner in the top left corner, which is useless because it doesn't show the other players on the pitch, which is what the scanner was there for. The player graphics are absolutely bare-boned. As far as I can understand, you will only be playing with 2 different colors, so your team will always be blue and the opposing team will always be red. The sound effects are bare-boned. The music is, depending on the listener, a lot of people have been calling it awful. I've heard worse, unfortunately, but it's not particularly good. And thankfully, it's only present on the title screen. The controls are what they are. I have tried to explain the control setup thing, and it's hard for me to say whether it's more or less sensitive on the Commodore 64 version than it is on the Amiga version. But as I've quite clearly made note of, I'm not a fan of the control scheme, so it will for me always be a negative point. There's no presentation of the matches of any kind, which sort of detracts from the excitement of playing football. But the bigger issue with this particular conversion is the fact that it has certain bugs that can appear out of nowhere. As you can probably hear from the video so far, the ball connection sound effect has been looping for quite a bit, and it looped until I stopped playing the game, which is something that's rather unfortunate. Extra time, which of course is injury time, can apparently loop infinitely, which is always good fun. And you can have players sent off and then return to the pitch and things like that, which all in all makes for a rather uninteresting and not particularly exciting to play a football game. Someone commenting on this particular title was trying to justify the flaws and shortcomings of the conversion by saying that the Commodore 64 is a 1 MHz machine with 64K memory, and you had to accept those limitations and that kind of stuff. But bear in mind, of course, that Microprose, 4 years prior to the release of this particular title, managed to make an attack helicopter simulator work with those resources available. Those kind of things consider, this conversion is unforgivable. Thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.